So we'll be presenting about patenting pharmaceutical drugs, particularly the positive benefits of it. My name is Dylan.
I'm Isabel.
And I'm Sam.
And before I begin with the presentation, I'm going to set a bit of context here with a bit of a leading question. Are you not entitled to the sweat of your brow? By that I mean, are you not entitled to reap the rewards of your hard work, your determination, and your efforts? I would say yes. I imagine they would both say yes. And I would hope that you'll all say yes to that question too by the end of our presentation. So, imagine that you are a college student. That's not a big stretch probably, but imagine you're a college student, a graduate student. You've been in classes for 5, 7 years, maybe even close to 10 years to get a degree in your passion, which is chemistry. You almost got your master's, you're even your PhD, and you have been offered a job once you finish your PhD to go to a pharmaceutical firm to work on some really important projects for both the company, yourself, and the world. And imagine after all this work of getting your degree, and then once you're at this company, all of this work producing this drug, and then as it goes out to the world, are you not entitled to be paid for your efforts? Of course, those efforts throughout the years, but also the efforts of the success of the drug due to the company and due to yourselves. Again, I would say yes, but those that would be against patenting drugs would say no. You are not entitled to be paid for your work, to be paid for these drugs. Instead, they are entitled to buy the store brand drugs for as cheap as possible because, the effort doesn't belong to you, and the drugs don't belong to you or your company. Of course, they belong to mankind. They belong to the world. I would disagree, but as we move into the PowerPoint, the positive benefits of being able to patent a drug, of course, it causes economic growth. Investors invest money in companies to produce drugs. The drugs are sold, and the money is then paid back to the investors, paid back to the company, and of course, paid back to the scientists that produced the drug in the first place. Of course, it proliferates safe and effective drugs. Notice I underline safe and effective. Without the patent, the drug may get to more people overall, but of course, without patents are what the drug departments use to test these drugs, to make sure that they're safe and that they actually work and do what they say they do. So without patents, more people may access the drug, the original compound, but of course, it won't be particularly good. If it's patented, it goes through even decades of testing and patent testing to make sure that they work. Isabel will touch on that later in the presentation as well, more specifically. And it just gets a good drug that works, most importantly, to the people that need it. It funds new research. As these investors notice that investing in companies and getting good drugs out brings them back money, of course, they'll want to invest more in these companies, and of course, that allows research to happen more thoroughly, more effectively, and of course, more often. So we have a quick video clip that'll touch on some of the things I touched on and lead you to what Isabel will be talking about in the next section. So go ahead.
You're about to meet Marty.
Marty the pill, a medicinal molecule, is born. The journey begins to make Marty accessible to patients everywhere. Without intellectual property, protecting the scientist's idea, Marty may never have existed. The researcher relied on patents to protect his innovation, Marty, but also to ensure that he would get investment needed to get it to the tens, hundreds, millions of people that need it. In the EU, a patent has a limit of 20 years after being filed. At least half of that time is the time needed to take Marty from a molecule to a medicine, and then his final goal. Why is it so long? Marty undergoes testing for safety and efficacy before being used in patients. The bar to jump is set very high by regulators, and if Marty fails to make it over all of the hurdles in front of him, he will disappear. For medicines, this is where IP really counts, and why it allows Marty to exist. Pharmaceutical companies can only produce their new medicines by massively investing in research and development. Without patents and other IPR to protect investment, new products would be copied as soon as they are launched and there would be no incentives for investment. Marty wouldn't have a chance. If he fails, future medicines might also be at jeopardy. Returns on investment from Marty fuels future generations of medicines too. Today, more than 5,000 medicines are in development globally. 70% of those are potential first-in-class medicines, which could provide exciting new approaches to disease treatment for patients. Medicines are different from other forms of innovation because of the rigorous testing they undergo before being used in patients. But their end purpose is exactly what makes medicines and the IP that protects them so special. IP protects the medicines that help protect the patients.
Okay, so hopefully the video was able to give you a pretty solid foundation on what the rest of the presentation is going to look like. So in that video, we heard a lot about IP, intellectual property. So what intellectual property is pretty much your idea. So it's a work or invention that came out of creativity. So you have an idea, and you have a right to protect that idea, and you can do that with a patent. So oftentimes, a patent is described as a property or a monopoly. So when they talk about a property of a patent, I usually think of land. So they want it's the perimeters of your idea. And a monopoly is giving the company who has set the patent in place is the one that is able to control the sell and trade of it, and they also have a say in distributors. They have a say in sellers and how their drugs are used. So let's talk about what a patent is, just a general patent, and what it means to patent something. So okay, so when talking about a patent, oftentimes people confuse it with a copyright. So when you think of copyright and patent, they're both put in place to kind of protect your idea, but I'll give you a few scenarios to kind of show you the big differences that those are. So say I meet with a friend and we're both working on a book. And I tell my friend what I'm working on. I tell her, I'm working on this book, it's about vampires. And we go off in our separate ways. I published my work and she published her work too. And her work just so happened to be about vampires. It's the same thing. So with copyright, it doesn't protect your idea, it just protects the final product. So yeah, there were similarities, but you can't really do anything. Now with a patent, so say I went to go see the same friend. I forgave her for stealing my vampire idea. And I told her about this drug that I'm developing. I told her it's going to save all these lives, and we go our separate ways, and again, she tries to take my idea. But I was smart this time. I patented the drug, and she wasn't able to use it because oftentimes there are so a patent does not allow for independent creation. That means that two people aren't allowed to go and work on the same project. So if you patent something, you are the one that works on it, nobody else. So we are going to move on to the development process. So first things first, you have your rights. It is your right, it's your idea to own this drug. And a patent, in the video it was talking about European countries, but it does apply for US as well. A patent lasts about 20 years. That's 20 years when you thought of that idea. So by the time that there is a single pill finally developed, you've gone about 10 years in. So you have this drug on the market for 10 years. And we'll get more into the economic side of that right now. but that's a lot of time just researching, developing, testing. It's going through these processes over and over to be perfect. And when a patent expires, others are able to access that. And that's when generic drugs come in. So we go to the store, we see generic stuff everywhere. We see Advil, ibuprofen, right next to each other. They're the same exact thing. One's just a brand name and one is a generic thing. So once that patent is removed, others are able to come in and use it, and the FDA monitors it, and it has to be bioequivalent to the brand name drug. And this also encourages competition between sellers. So, this is a quote that I found while doing some research. It's talking about, so it says, giving the drug company a monopoly where it charges what it can is like negotiating firefighters' pay when they show up at your burning house. So that was on the New York Times website. And I found this really interesting because when you think firefighters, you think, okay, well, don't firefighters get paid by the government? A lot of pharmaceutical companies, if they receive government help, it's not very much. Most of that is private investors. I know if I invest my money in something, I expect to get something back. And move on to the economic side.
Thank you. So I'll be talking about the economics of patenting a drug. Did you know that it can take up to as many as 20 years to be able to sell pharmaceutical drugs on the market? From the time it was a concept to the time it hits the market, it could have taken anywhere from 10 to 20 years. These drugs have to go through expensive, long, time-consuming testing procedures to show that they are effective and safe. Without patents, once a company has shown that their drug is able to do what they say it can accomplish, rival drug companies are able to steal the years of costly research and make cheaper copies of that drug. The cost to develop a new pharmaceutical drug exceeds $2.5 billion. According to Rick Mullen of Scientific American, he writes, a new report published by the Tufts Center for the Study of Drug Development, which is also known as CSDD, pegs the cost of developing a prescription drug that gains market approval at $2.6 billion, a 145% increase. The CSDD's findings, a bellwether figure in the drug industry, is based on an average out-of-pocket cost of $1.4 billion and an estimate of $1.2 billion in returns that investors forego on that money during the 10+ years a drug candidate spends in development. The Center's analysis drew from the information provided by 10 pharmaceutical companies on 106 randomly selected drugs first tested in humans between 1995 and 2007. The study concludes that another $312 million is spent on post-approval development, such as studies to test new indications, formulations, and dosage strengths, for a life cycle cost of $2.9 billion. So not only does it take 2 decades to market the pharmaceutical drug, but it also takes billions of dollars to produce a safe and effective drug. Imagine that you have dedicated up to 20 years of your life, and at the same time you also have millions up to possibly billions of dollars to pay back to your investors, and also for the people who have been working with you that entire time. You have dedicated all this time to research, testing, more testing, and even more testing, and you've also hit many roadblocks creating this new drug that will improve others' lives. But yet, through all of this, you've succeeded. Along the way, you've spent a lot of money, but not just on the research and testing and the creation of the drug, but on the people who've been helping you. Now that your new innovative pharmaceutical drug is now on the market, and thanks to your patent, you are able to pay back investors and make a profit off of all of your hard work. But if patents are stripped away, then all of that hard work would be for nothing. Any rival drug company could come in and steal all of your hard work and dedication, and with that, produce a cheaper alternative because they didn't have to spend the years or the money to research, test and produce a generic version of that drug. Now, that doesn't seem fair. This is why it remains important and fair that pharmaceutical companies retain the right to own patents over what they create. I'm going to pass it on to Dylan.
So, I'm going to touch back on the question asked at the beginning of this presentation. Are you not entitled to the sweat of your brow? I hope now you understand what that question really means, and that you'll agree with me and Isabel and Sam that the answer to that is yes.